Tuning your car wrong can lead to disastrous consequences.
Today we're breaking down tuning fails to understand what went wrong and how to avoid blowing up your dream build on the dyno.
First clip.
Expensive fail that shop goes up in flames. Oh god. Where did the flames come out? Whoa! He's just like, he's just casually jogging out. Oh my god, did somebody get a fire extinguisher?
Don't we teach this in safety?
You know,
you want to have the fire extinguisher and know how to work it before. Okay, so what I saw right there, looked like he blew the turbine out of the back. It looks like one of those 4th of July little spinny little flower things.
Right, yeah. That sucks. And so then, okay, but how did we get such a big fire?
I'm thinking like kind of hypothetically, when that thing comes out, it's gonna bang up a bunch of stuff on the way out.
That's true.
And also at the same time, you've got oil pumping out of the back of that turbo because now there's no turbine.
So you're saying because the turbo failed, now we've got all this.
Yeah, it blows out the back. The oil galley's right there.
I've got a question for you. So we all know that we get blow-by gases and we get flammables that go down into the oil, which makes oil a lot more flammable than it naturally is, let's say, coming out of the bottle, right? So for a car like this, probably because of its air-fuel ratio and all of that, would you say like that oil becomes flammable pretty quick?
It's gonna be pretty rich because of full throttle.
Right, yeah. You're on the dyno, doing dyno stuff.
It's like Bigfoot. We caught the Yeti. We caught the Yeti.
It's me. He's looking. I'm Angelina. This is Joe. We're actually both automotive instructors for Riverside City College.
And we actually have a dyno, and we actually try not to do these things at work. So, next clip. Is that an engine dyno?
I know. That's what I'm trying to figure out. That's a strange engine dyno.
Very tall.
Yeah. It's like a mobile engine dyno. Okay.
Oh, that's a Radial. That's a.
Oh, it is. Yeah. That's
a Radial.
An airplane engine.
That's just running. So that's just running. That's doing Radial things.
Okay.
But the dude doesn't.
My guy right here is standing right next to it.
With no. Oh, does he not like his ears? Does he not like being able to hear things?
I would say that's 100% self-induced.
What?
Like, that's
what?
Huh?
What?
I can't hear anymore.
What?
It doesn't look like a dyno. It actually looks almost like an engine running stand,
like
but for a Radial or something,
yeah.
a test stand, yeah. Because you do a lot of dyno stuff, a lot of tuning stuff. Do you recommend specific PPE when people are around when you're doing this?
It's something like this, you're definitely going to want ear protection. You know, if we're working on a car that has full exhaust, you know, kind of a thing, it's not as bad. You may want to just put the little foamies in your ear, but something like this, you want full ear protection. This dude's head is like 1.5 feet from an exhaust pipe. Like, what are you doing? Like, you see the foot. I'm almost expecting his hair to catch on fire.
He's drunk.
If not, he should be.
Yeah. Honestly, even in an engine dyno room, like a professional engine dyno room, nobody's standing in there when you're dynoing.
No.
Because stuff happens.
I've been in places where like a nut vibrated off a motor and went through like a belt, like a timing belt.
Oh.
And you take like 120,000 PSI fastener and gets smashed flat by a belt.
And then spit back out.
And gets spit back out and spit into the hardened wall of the dyno. Like where there's an actual dent in the wall.
Yeah, that's like that's a bullet.
Listen, from 2 instructors, this is irresponsible.
Ear protection, people.
Next clip.
Sucked all the oxygen out of the room. Oh God.
Ooh. Condensation. Did you see that? He made a cloud.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, what happened, Joe?
Apparently, they've got it in a room that does not have sufficient ventilation. We've actually run into that before on the engine dyno, where the air pump, you've got a vent fan blowing out, right, from one side, but you've got to get
fresh air
the same amount in, and apparently between the pump blowing out and probably exhaust fan the inlet of the turbo actually dropped the pressure in that area.
That's crazy.
Yeah, turbos will move so much air.
Well, I mean, you look at that. That is a gigantic turbo. That is larger than the size of my head, for sure. Not that I have a large head.
It is. I think it does look larger than your head.
It's definitely larger than my head, 100%. So that's got to be a lot of airflow.
I have not seen a cloud in the dyno room, but I have seen where it's dropped the ambient air pressure in the room so much that the power of the motor dropped off.
Wow.
Next clip.
Tuning my turbo Civic gone wrong.
Glazing the tires at the top a second. My distributor fell out while street tuning.
What?
Oh, the bolt came off.
There's
Many bolts. There's a couple of bolts.
There's supposed
that
to be
came
like
out.
3 bolts.
Yeah, but it kind of looks like maybe they only had.
Yeah. Whoop, whoop, whoop. That's the most Honda video I've seen in a while.
Get used to it, brother.
Okay, get used to it, brother. Do you want that guy tuning your car?
No.
My guy.
No.
You should never get used to all 3 of your distributor bolts falling out.
No.
Something's wrong. For those of you who are watching this video, if you are taking a look at our buddy with his hood up and the bolts for the distributor fell out, that black piece to which they are zip tying on is what we call a distributor. A distributor is going to take a high voltage spark that's coming from your ignition coil, and it is going to distribute a spark to each cylinder. That's going to be composed of a cap that's going to have points that's going to send through spark plug wires to each cylinder, and inside a rotor that's going to rotate, kind of like, that. That's going to rotate spark to spark to spark to spark.
Do it again.
Like that's me as a rotor. It's a way that we have distributed spark for many a years, but it's not the best one because we have one ignition coil, and that ignition coil can only have so much time to charge up and send out the spark, charge up and send out the spark. So you are going to be limited with, I'm just going to say spark capacity to oversimplify things. When we start to get up in that higher RPM, that same action is not going to hold up as well. And so later models, late 90s into the 2000s, some manufacturers even earlier, we started going to a waste spark system where I had one ignition coil per 2 cylinders instead of one ignition coil for all 4, 6, or 8 cylinders. And now every vehicle pretty much has coil on plug. So each cylinder is going to have its own coil. So we don't have to have anything to distribute the spark because each cylinder has its own. People will say they prefer tuning while driving compared to tuning while on the dyno. What's your take on that and why?
What I see them doing here is full throttle. And the full throttle stuff, you really should be doing it on the dyno. It's all the stuff below full throttle that when you're driving around that works better. And for this, it's just not safe. 2-lane road in the day in traffic is not the best. That's not the most ideal place for a car that, might potentially turn left or right on its own given traction situation.
Or lose distributor bolts.
Yeah, there's a lot to watch. You're not the only person on the road.
He maybe thinks he is though.
Yeah.
Next clip.
Ooh, super.
It's a very pretty dyno.
That is. Oh, dang! Wow.
Yeah, I would love to see what's going on in the back there.
Oh no! Hey, that blew. Boom.
I feel like that's a tire deal.
You think it's a tire thing?
Look at all the body parts flipping around.
That is true.
The mighty 2J strikes again. I think about tires, man, when I'm working the dyno, all I'm thinking is I hope that tire doesn't hate me. I'm right there usually a lot of times.
I've always thought that. You're like literally in the danger zone.
Yeah, I try to keep everybody away from the back. You got to have everybody back, cleared away, back over there, because if something's going to fail on the dyno,
it's going to be the tire.
Tires, yeah, because you don't really know, and they're not always new. And if you ever see what a tire does on the dyno when you're putting some ponies down, like the tires get kind of wrinkled up and they're under some stress. And I can imagine with that car, probably a lot of stress on that tire, and it doesn't take much.
There's a lot of like flex, right? And then
they wrinkle
potential
up
for damage.
at 120, 130 miles an hour, 140 miles an hour.
Right.
And you're twisting on that thing. It's basically just a rotary bomb waiting to go off.
We see parts go straight up, for sure.
Boop, and then come back down there on the other side.
Yeah. Let's fly into that next clip.
Ooh, engine dyno. Oh.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Wow. Oh my Lanta.
I love diesel fails.
Diesel fails are just so violent.
I was going to say violent, yes.
Oh my god.
I'd be lying if I said I had a clue what makes a diesel do that. I really don't know, but I've seen the aftermath of some of these before, and they will...
Of the cylinder heads just popping off?
The cylinder heads don't pop off. The block separates in the middle of the bore or at the bottom of the bore.
Oh.
And it'll carry the cylinder off with the head, still bolted securely in place with those heavy-duty studs.
I don't know either. I'm not a diesel person at the least, but I mean, I have to imagine because they have so much more pressure in the cylinder, plus, you're adding forced induction on top of that.
Some of these things make, 1,500, 2,000 horsepower.
That's true. How much can you ask?
And then like 4,000 or 5,000
torque or something.
Or something.
You know what? That's a good point. I don't care how good your manufacturing is. That's nuts.
It's part of pushing the envelope. You're going to break some stuff.
That's a fair point.
You want to make a tractor puller, you're going to break some Cummins.
Let's blow up into that next clip.
So great.
Can you imagine standing next to that? Jeez. Wow. This is actually how I had the Civic dynoed and tuned first many, I don't know, 15 years ago or whatever. Shout out to Church's Tuning.
I find out right here on camera that you cheated on me.
With another tuner. How dare you?
I've done work on hub dynos before. I did not know at the time that they even had such a thing as a safety beam.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
So I never pictured that one of these things could happen, but the stuff that I was working on was in the 400, 600 range kind of a thing, but I was sitting right there. Didn't have to worry about the tire, so I'm thinking, well, hey, it's all good.
This is so much safer.
It's so much. What could go wrong? That car is probably in the 1,500, 2,000 horsepower range.
Yeah, just looking at that setup.
That's no joke. That's no joke power. What those boxes do is they actually impart a load on the axle. So you basically that's perfect physics right there. You've got leverage, you've got force. Yeah, it's opposing that axle, and so at some point
the car was stronger.
Yeah, who won?
Who won?
They thumb wrestled, and the car won.
Next clip, please. Oh gosh, this always makes me nervous when they do this, like out.
Oof.
You just know you're in a different part of the country when nobody flinched.
Minor league physics geek is coming out going, well, the drive shaft's going this way. That's not going to make it shoot out the back. What happened? It came back and it got shot out like a salad shooter off the roller. No, it hit the roller.
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
it hit the roller. The dyno shot that out, which is you really got to be aware. That tube is a 24-inch diameter steel tube filled with, I assume, something like concrete or something. It's a solid roller.
Roller.
Yeah, it's an inertia. So it's a massive amount of energy when that thing's running at 100 something miles an hour. And so anything that gets near it just look at that thing just hop. Look at that just hop. It's like a jumping drive shaft. Just boink, boink, boink. I don't see the dyno breaking this. I don't see running it on the dyno. I don't see the dyno causing that problem. It's more likely that running it and kind of hanging at a certain RPM, if the U-joint was bad or something, it's just going to flutter and it's going to be at like a critical RPM. When you sit there at that one spot
on the dyno,
it's the same thing as when you have a singer and they hit that one note and the glass
right.
If they do it for a second, the glass kind of fluctuates, but if you keep doing it, it's going to go.
In Atlantic City, though, they ain't scared.
They roll differently.
Good for you guys. They roll differently. Let's check out that next clip.
414 is dead.
That looks like a rod. Yikes.
Centipod. They got their fire extinguisher?
You know? Oh, wow.
Oh.
Schmogan.
I've seen that a few times.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Unlucky, Brad. That 1.4 has had some serious pain. So
Yeah.
we come to see what damage has happened to this poor engine.
This poor engine.
Oh.
Look, we have a new inspection hole.
This event.
In the block, we only saw one flying out the front.
Well, clearly there's another one. Wow. Well,
Harmonics are a
mofo.
big deal. When you get to a certain power level,
I mean,
in
it's what
engines.
causes everything to explode, right?
well, it can. You don't think of cranks as being kind of flexible, but they'll ring and twist. And you can see on the dyno, like on belt cars, you can watch the belts flutter around. Even just revving up a motor, you can see how the timing will change.
Right.
You can actually watch the ignition timing move with a timing light. If you got a camera on it, you can actually watch it fluttering, basically. And you can see that the timing will get erratic.
So for something like this, would you say that crank was just not equipped to handle, let's say, that RPM or level of power?
The thing is, when you're pushing something a long ways and past where other people might have pushed it,
You don't know where the variables
You're
are
in
at.
new ground. You're on new ground. It's not like you can look it up in a manual and see. You're pushing the envelope. You're finding out where the next thing is going to break. You're just pushing it to the next thing it's going to break. I mean, if he had that kind of harmonics that it literally ripped it apart, he needs a different crank. That crank, for what he's doing, that crank and the rod assembly, it's either doesn't have enough counterweight or the reciprocating assembly is too heavy for what he's doing. Next clip.
This one's explosive. Whoa, what was he doing? Okay. Whoa.
Oh, he had a...
Oh, was that fuel coming out of that
Did he
spark
have a-
plug hole? That's what that looks like.
Oh, hey, fire extinguisher.
Hey,
Nice. He knew right where it was.
he did. Oh, look. See, yeah, right here. That looks like is this a Volvo.
Oh,
We've got fuel being spat.
good eye spot in the
Is that
Volvo
the right-
thing. That's the old red block stuff.
Spat out. Fuel spat out the spark plug hole.
Oh, it looks like he may or may not have been trying to get gasoline out of a cylinder and may or may not have forgotten to disconnect the ignition system.
You know what? Look, we do have
There's probably
some
a spark plug
wires that
yeah.
are just hanging out where fuel is being spat. So we've got all our spark plug wires up there.
It's just like I like the violence with which that gasoline came out of there. Just
It is a little geyser-esque. Sad day. Sad day.
Yes.
Moral of the story, you flood your engine, you can pull out the spark plugs, crank it, shoot the fuel up, but you must make sure there is no sparks around that. And always have a fire extinguisher handy. Next clip.
Oh.
Okay, so we don't have to cut open the exhaust.
You don't have to.
Oh, no.
Nice.
Hidden
Nice.
gem in the exhaust that resembles a
Oof.
turbine impeller.
It does. It looks shockingly like a turbine impeller.
Like one. Okay, what does this look like to you? Does it look like the shaft just broke?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be one of those eBay turbos I've heard so much about.
A Timo turbo?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I guess the added benefit to this happening is that it didn't. What is it going to hit on its way out the exhaust? Huh? You need a new turbo. Although I will say, if that shaft broke, I don't know what happened on the compressor side.
So probably nothing. It's just going to be the turbo. If that's well, plus putting his exhaust back together.
You know, I do feel like that's the least worst, probably, out of all the videos we've seen.
Yeah, of all of them.
Next clip.
Oh hey!
Ah!
Yeah,
This
we're home.
looks familiar. I feel at home right now.
Woohoo! Who is that handsome gentleman in the background there?
Yeah, it looks like the guy tuning this looks like a really cool guy. Like you just want to hang out with him.
Oh
no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
You know what, Joe? That almost looks like it's you in the background.
Waivers are all signed.
Waivers were definitely signed. Everybody was safe. Look, you don't see a crowd around the dyno. Very safe.
Yep.
So at Riverside City College, we are one of the very few automotive programs in the area that actually does have an in-ground chassis dyno. This is our school that we are so proud of working at, and this does so happen to be a student's vehicle to which they signed waivers, agreed to do this. In fact, actually was really interested in seeing how much horsepower.
One might say he might have been very eager to get his car on the dyno.
Anytime you go on the dyno, and you've seen, I'm sure, enough carnage yourself, there's always risk. And this car had seen some better days.
So this car, it's like a stock, I think it was a 03, 05 Mustang with like 230,000 miles on it, all original, 4.6 manual trans car. Kind of stock. I wasn't really worried about blowing up the motor, but we ran it in third gear a couple of times, and I'm trying to remember what the horsepower was. I want to say we got to like 196 at the wheels, and we're like, we're gonna get two. And sometimes if you go up a gear, you'll get a couple more. We did it in fourth gear, and it just didn't have the beans to pull the fourth gear quickly, and so it kind of hung at that critical RPM we talked about, and I think. I might be reading between the lines a little bit. Basically, the U-joints weren't great, and I think the motor mount or the trans mount in the back wasn't great. We had all the kitty litters out that day because it dumped 3 quarts of oil on the ground, and it basically filled it up from where the front wheels are all the way to the pit, and the oil was running down the pit.
Don't know if I've ever seen somebody so excited for such damage to happen to their car.
Yeah.
So shout out to you, James. You're a real one. I mean, we found out how much horsepower your engine made, but
196, as it were.
196. Did he end up fixing it?
Oh yeah, he
ended up fixing it. But I think I
had to give him a ride home that day.
If you want to see more RMS, click here. Or maybe here, or maybe here, or maybe here. I feel like every single time I do this, they always put it in the opposite of where I'm pointing. So if you click somewhere in this general area, then you will get more of just that.